Your dog has been saying goodbye for days. You just did not know that is what it was. There is an 11-year-old golden retriever named Birch who spends most of his afternoons now in the sunniest corner of the kitchen, sleeping. His owner, a high school teacher named Elise, who grades papers at that same kitchen table every evening, has watched him slow down over the past 8 months. The limp that started in his back left leg, the mornings he stopped meeting her at the coffee maker, the food bowl that stays full until noon. Elise has not said the word out loud yet, but her body knows. She moves more quietly around him now, like she is already practicing the silence that is coming. If you are watching this video, there is a good chance you know exactly how Elise feels. You have felt the shift. The house is not the same. Your dog is still there, still breathing, still present, but something enormous and unnamed is gathering at the edges of every ordinary moment. And then, one morning, everything changes. You walk into the room expecting to find them exactly as you left them the night before. Quiet, still, fading. Instead, they lift their head. Their eyes are clear, impossibly, achingly clear. They wag their tail. They struggle to their feet and walk toward you, and you realize your hands are shaking because you have not seen them walk like that in weeks. They go to their bowl. They eat. They bring you a toy they have not touched in months, and they press their nose against your hand with a warmth and an intent that feels like something enormous. It feels like them. It feels like the dog you first brought home. And in that moment, your whole body floods with hope. You text your family. You think, maybe the vet was wrong. Maybe the new medication finally worked. Maybe, somehow, impossibly, they are getting better. And then, usually within hours, the crash comes. The light leaves their eyes again. They collapse back into their bed. The vitality evaporates as fast as it arrived, and within a day, sometimes 2, they are gone. What you are left with is not just grief. It is a particular kind of devastation. Because you had hope. Because you believed for one whole day that you were getting them back. And then you lost them twice. Here is what I want you to know. What you witnessed was not a trick. It was not false hope sent to torment you. It was not your dog struggling cruelly back from the brink only to fall again. What you witnessed has a name. It has been studied, documented, and recorded across species for decades. It is called terminal lucidity, sometimes called the end-of-life rally, and in the scientific literature, it carries a Spanish name so beautiful it almost sounds like a poem. La mejoría de la muerte. The improvement of death. It is not an accident. It is not a malfunction. It is one of the most profound, deliberate, and heartbreaking biological events your dog will ever experience. And it was meant, from the very first moment, entirely for you. To understand what Birch is about to give Elise, we have to go deep, much deeper than most people expect. We have to go inside the brain itself, into the final minutes of a life, where something extraordinary is happening that science is only beginning to fully understand. Because it turns out that the moment before death is not the quieting of the mind, it is the opposite. And once you know what is actually happening in there, you will never see that last good day the same way again. The dying brain does not go quiet. It roars. For most of modern medical history, scientists assumed that as the body shut down, the brain simply dimmed, like a light on a slowly lowering switch, until it reached absolute darkness. That assumption is wrong. What the research has revealed instead is something so astonishing, so counterintuitive, that when scientists first published their findings, the medical community struggled to accept it. When the body begins its final systemic shutdown, When the organs begin to fail and the blood pressure drops and the oxygen levels fall, the brain does not comply. It detects the catastrophic cascade. It recognizes that the internal environment is becoming incompatible with life, and instead of dimming, it does something extraordinary. It unlocks its deepest vaults. In one sweeping, desperate, beautiful act of biological defiance, the autonomic nervous system triggers the release of a massive flood of stored neurotransmitters directly into the central nervous system. This is not a trickle. This is a tidal wave. The first chemical to surge is norepinephrine. You may know it as adrenaline. This sudden spike acts like a high-voltage electrical shock to the failing system. It forces whatever oxygenated blood remains directly toward the brain and the heart. It dilates the pupils, sweeping away the cloudy, distant fog and restoring that razor-sharp, heartbreaking clarity to your dog's eyes. It floods the muscles with a burst of physical energy strong enough to lift a body that could not bear its own weight just hours before. Think about Birch. He has not stood up quickly in months. His back legs tremble in the mornings. And yet, on a Tuesday afternoon, he will rise from that kitchen corner with a sureness that will stop Elise's breath in her chest. Following the adrenaline comes a massive surge of dopamine, the chemical that drives motivation, reward, and the urgent desire to seek out connection. The dopamine temporarily overrides the nausea, the lethargy, the total loss of interest that organ failure brings. It is the dopamine that sends your dog walking to their bowl, that makes them pick up the old toy, that makes them seek you out with purpose and intention rather than just lying still. At the same time, the brain floods with serotonin, a chemical that regulates mood and creates a state of deep, quiet well-being. The serotonin quiets the physical distress signals. It wraps your dog's consciousness in something like peace, temporarily silencing the noise of the failing body. But the most extraordinary and the most merciful component of this neurochemical storm is something else entirely. Somewhere in a sun-warmed garden, a dog named Ollie, who had not been able to walk for weeks, got to her feet and walked slowly through every room of her home, looking carefully at every familiar corner, before sitting down to watch the sunrise one last time. The researchers who documented her case noted that she moved with total calm, no distress, no fear, as if, somehow, she felt fine. She did feel fine, because the dying body had just released its most powerful tool. The body produces its own painkillers, natural compounds called beta endorphins that are exponentially more potent than any medication a veterinarian could prescribe. In a landmark study measuring brain chemistry at the threshold of death in dogs, researchers discovered something staggering. In dogs who were conscious as they approached death, there was a massive, statistically significant surge of these beta endorphins throughout their entire central nervous system. The flood effectively blocked every pain receptor in the brain. The arthritis that had been grinding in Birch's hips for 2 years? Gone. Not healed. Gone. The cancer that had been causing internal pain for months? Silenced. Not cured. Silenced. The brain provided its own final, perfect analgesia, allowing your dog to exist for a few fleeting hours, completely free from the physical torment that had defined their days. There is a word for this. It is mercy. It was built into the biology from the very beginning. And this flood of chemistry is accompanied by something even more astonishing. Something happening at the electrical level of the brain itself. Something that will completely change the way you understand that clear-eyed, searching gaze your dog gave you on their last good day. What the brain does with electricity in its final hours is the most unexpected discovery in all of this science, and it is the key that unlocks everything. Here is something that will stay with you. The brain of a dying dog, in its final hours, generates more electrical activity than it does during a normal, healthy, wide-awake day. When scientists placed electrodes on the brains of mammals during the dying process and measured what was happening electrically, they expected to see a gradual flatline. Instead, they found something that made them check their equipment twice. Immediately following the loss of blood flow to the brain, rather than going silent, the brain generated a powerful, highly synchronized surge of gamma waves. Gamma waves are the fastest, highest-frequency brain waves. In a living, healthy brain, they are associated with intense focus, complex processing, and the highest levels of conscious awareness. In the dying brain, these gamma waves do not just appear. They surge. They spike to levels that exceed anything measured during normal waking consciousness, and they synchronize across different regions of the brain, forming tight, coherent connections in a pattern researchers call anterior-posterior directed connectivity. The whole brain is talking to itself in the most organized, most deliberate conversation it has ever had. And it is having this conversation at the very end of life. This means something profound. When your dog lifts their head and finds your face during the end-of-life rally, their brain is not misfiring in confusion. It is not a brief, meaningless flicker. It is operating in a state of unprecedented hyperarousal. The neural pathways associated with memory, recognition, and intent are being lit up by the absolute, final, highest voltage electrical reserves the body possesses. This is why dogs with severe cognitive decline, animals who have spent months pacing in confusion, staring at walls, getting stuck behind furniture, sometimes suddenly respond to their name during the rally. They remember the commands they learned as puppies. They recognize every face in the room with an unclouded sharpness. The memories were never erased. The brain's ability to reach them was simply damaged, and the electrical surge that comes at the end of life acts as a final high-voltage override, temporarily forcing open the blocked pathways, allowing the true essence of who they are to break through the broken machinery of the aging body one last time. Consider a 14-year-old dog named Foxy, so frail he could no longer stand. His family sat down to dinner together one evening, and Foxy, using reserves that should have been entirely spent, got to his feet. He moved around the table slowly, deliberately, stopping at each person. He looked deeply into each face. He placed his paw on each of them, one at a time, with quiet, unambiguous intention. After he had reached every person at that table, he lay back down on the floor and passed away. That was not random movement. That was not confusion. That was a mind operating with perfect, burning clarity, using the last surge of gamma coherence and adrenaline to do the only thing that mattered to him: make sure everyone knew. A Staffordshire bulldog named Petey did something similar. In the hour before he died, he went to every member of his family individually, spending time with each one before returning to his bed. It was not a behavior he had shown much of during his healthy life, but at the end, with his body failing, with the clock running out, he knew exactly what needed to be done. He completed his rounds, and then he let go. Now think about where this behavior comes from. Think about what is really driving it, because the answer takes us somewhere ancient and beautiful and entirely unexpected. To understand why a dying dog uses his last energy for goodbye, we have to go back much further than any individual dog's life. We have to go back to the beginning of the species, to the wolves, to the pack, to the evolutionary truth that explains not just how dogs die, but why they lived the way they did in the first place. And when you understand what the pack means, biologically, at the level of survival and genetics and time itself, the terminal rally stops looking like a tragedy. It starts looking like something else entirely. Here is the truth that changes the whole story. Your dog was not just wired to live with you. They were wired at the cellular level to die for you. Not in a dramatic, sacrificial sense, in something quieter and more beautiful than that. To understand it, we need to look at an extraordinary piece of research. Scientists analyzed the life history data of more than 1,400 mammal species and found a powerful, undeniable correlation. Mammals that live in bonded pairs or complex social groups consistently live significantly longer than mammals that live alone. The pack does not just make life more comfortable, it makes life longer. The social bond is not an emotional luxury, it is a biological mechanism. And it goes even deeper than lifespan. Researchers identified 31 specific genes that are involved in the coevolution of both social attachment and extended longevity in mammals. 31 genes that say, essentially, this animal's life is built around its bond with others. The individual cannot be understood apart from the group. For the wolf ancestors of your dog, this was not philosophy. This was survival. Hunting, defending territory, raising young, surviving winter. None of it was possible alone. The pack was the only reason the individual survived at all. And so the social bond was not something that happened alongside the biology. It was the biology. Now think about what happens in the wild when a senior or injured canine begins to fail. Their weakness creates a vulnerability in the pack structure. A dying member can slow the group, attract predators, disrupt the hierarchy. The terminal neurochemical surge, this massive flood of adrenaline and dopamine and endorphins, was not invented by accident. It was shaped over hundreds of thousands of years by evolutionary pressure to solve a specific problem. It provides the fading animal with a brief, critical window of lucidity and physical capability, precisely so they can perform the final functions that keep the social structure intact after they are gone. A reaffirmation of the bond, a signal to the pack that the hierarchy holds, a final touch that says, "You are going to be okay without me." Birch has never met a wolf. He sleeps on a memory foam mat next to the kitchen table where Elise grades papers. He has never hunted anything. He has never navigated a winter in the forest, but he carries this ancient programming in every cell. And when his time comes, when the neurochemical surge rises in him and the gamma waves fire and the adrenaline clears the fog from his eyes, this is what he will do with it. Not survive, not fight, not run. He will find Elise. Because she is his pack. She is his everything. She is the reason the biology was built. This brings us to the single most reported, most devastating, most transcendent moment of the terminal rally. The gaze. You have probably seen it if you have been through this. Your dog, who may have been staring blankly at nothing for days, suddenly turns their head and finds your face. And they do not just glance at you, they lock on. A deep, unbroken, searching gaze that holds for longer than any ordinary look. A gaze that feels like it is trying to tell you something too important for language. It is not random. It is not muscle spasm. It is one of the most powerful neurochemical events in all of mammalian biology, and it was designed by thousands of years of evolution specifically for this moment. Here is the science behind that look. And here is why it will undo you completely once you understand what it actually means. That look is not a look. It is a chemical conversation. Dogs discovered something over thousands of years of living alongside humans. They discovered that if they looked directly into a human's eyes, something happened. Something shifted. The human softened. The human reached out. The human stayed close. And slowly, over generations, dogs became the only non-human animals on Earth who instinctively seek the human gaze to communicate. They hijacked something. What they hijacked was the human maternal bonding system. At the center of this system is a molecule called oxytocin, which you may have heard called the love hormone. Oxytocin is the chemical that surges through a mother's body the first time she holds her newborn baby. It is the chemical of deep, permanent attachment, of safety and belonging, of, "I would do anything for you." Here is the extraordinary thing. When a dog and a human gaze into each other's eyes, when they hold that mutual, socio-positive look, both the dog and the human experience a significant, measurable rise in oxytocin levels in their brains. Both of them, at the same time. The human looks at the dog and feels a rush of love. The human naturally looks back and speaks softly and reaches out. And the dog's brain, receiving that warmth, releases its own answering flood of oxytocin in response. A loop. A feedback loop. A conversation made entirely of love chemistry, conducted through nothing but two sets of eyes. Think about what this means at the end of life. Your dog is enduring chaos inside their body. Their organs are shutting down. The cells are starving for oxygen. The adrenaline of the dying process is roaring through them. It is terrifying. It is overwhelming. It is a physical state that none of us will ever be able to fully imagine. And into the middle of all of that, your dog lifts their heavy head, uses the strength of the adrenaline surge to hold the weight of it against gravity, finds your face in the room, and initiates the gaze. They are not doing this because they are confused. They are doing it because the oxytocin feedback loop is the one thing that can biologically quiet the terror. The flood of oxytocin that washes through their brain when you meet their eyes provides a profound physiological anchor. It suppresses the stress. It reinforces the bond that was the center of their entire existence. It wraps the dying brain in the one sensation it has always associated with safety. They are spending their last available neurological resource to feel you. Maintaining that gaze requires an enormous amount from a failing body. Fine motor control over the neck and eye muscles, complex visual processing, the focused cognitive capacity to recognize a specific human face. These are resources that are essentially gone. And yet your dog uses them anyway. They spend what little is left not on survival, not on fighting the shutdown, but on holding that look for as long as they possibly can. This is the moment. This is the whole story contained in a single gaze. They are not asking you to save them. They are not confused about what is happening. On some deep, ancient, cellular level, they know exactly what this is. And they have chosen, with everything they have left, to spend it on you. That gaze is not a goodbye. It is a gift. The most expensive gift they will ever give you. And now that you know the science behind it, now that you understand the gamma waves and the adrenaline and the oxytocin and the 31 genes built around the bond, you understand what you were really holding when you held their eyes in those final hours. You were holding the entire history of the species, distilled into a single look, aimed only at you. There is one more piece of this story, the hardest one, the one about what to do with the knowledge, about how to carry this and how to be present for it when it comes, about what you owe each other in those last few hours, about what Elise will do when Birch finally finds her face across the kitchen floor. This is where the science stops being science and becomes something that belongs to you. There is a Tuesday evening that has not happened yet. Elise will be grading papers at the kitchen table, red pen moving across the page, and she will hear something shift behind her. She will turn around, and Birch will be standing in the middle of the kitchen, looking at her. Not the cloudy, distant look of the past few months. This look. The old look, the one from 8 years ago when he was young and tireless, and the world was full of good smells and long walks, and the sound of her keys in the door was the best thing that had ever happened to him. He will wag his tail once, slowly, and she will get down on the floor. This is the moment this entire video has been building toward, not as information, as preparation. Because here is the thing about a dog's life that will quietly break your heart and put it back together at the same time. Your life is enormous. You have decades ahead of you, careers and heartbreaks and relocations and new chapters and old regrets and mornings you haven't lived yet. Your life is a vast, sprawling, complicated thing. And inside that vast thing, there is a dog. And that dog's entire world, every morning, every fear, every moment of pure, unthinking joy, every good dream and favorite smell and soft place they felt safe, all of it fits inside one person. You are not just part of their world. You are the whole world. You are the center of the map. The reason the biology was built. The average dog lives somewhere between 10 and 15 years. A decade, maybe a little more, of loving you with a completeness that most humans never manage with anyone. There is no distraction in it, no ambivalence, no days where they decide they need a little space. Just this, just you, just the unbearable, joyful, entire commitment of a creature who is built for exactly one thing, and that thing is you. And right now, while you are watching this, they are nearby. Maybe sleeping. Maybe watching you from across the room. Maybe pressing their warm weight against your legs, because that is simply where they always are. They are still here. This moment, right now, while the screen is glowing and the house is quiet, is one of the moments that will matter later. And you are in it. So here is what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not after you finish watching, in the next 60 seconds. Find them. Go to wherever they are right now. Sit down on the floor beside them, or lower yourself to their level in whatever way you can. Put your hand flat on their side, over their ribs, and feel them breathe. Just that. Just the breath going in and out. The small rise and fall of the animal who loves you more completely than you will ever fully know. Stay there for 1 full minute. Let the oxytocin do what it was built to do. Let the loop run. Let them feel you there. It is not a grand gesture. It is not a ceremony, but it is the thing. It is the exact thing. When Birch gives Elise that look on that Tuesday evening, she will not know how long they have. Maybe hours. Maybe one more day. But because she watched this, because she understands what the clear eyes mean and where the adrenaline comes from, and why he is spending his last good hours finding her face, she will not spend those hours grieving. She will not be on the phone. She will not be searching for miracle cures. She will be on the floor, with him, holding the gaze, letting the loop run. That is the gift that understanding gives you. The ability to be fully, completely present for the most important goodbye you will ever receive. If your dog has already given you their last good day, if you lived through the rally and the crash and the particular devastation of hope given and taken, I hope this changes the way you carry that memory. You were not tricked. You were chosen. They spent everything they had left, their last surge of chemistry and electricity and ancient evolutionary programming, to make sure you had one more day together. That was not cruelty. That was devotion. The purest, most expensive form of it. Tell me in the comments, did your dog have a last good day? Did they give you that look? I want to know their name. I want to know what they did with their final spark. This community is full of people who understand exactly what you went through, People who see their dogs the way dogs deserve to be seen. And your story belongs here. If this video helped you understand something you have been carrying for a long time, please share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe to The Soulful Dog and join us. Every week, we go deeper into the science of what it means to love an animal this completely. And next time, we are going to talk about something your dog does every single day that you have always written off as ordinary. Something scientists have only recently discovered is anything but. A behavior so quiet and so constant that most owners never even notice it. But your dog has been doing it every time you walk into a room. You are not going to want to miss that one.